Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. So when the pandemic first began, like for many of us, I found myself turning into coping mechanisms that have helped me to survive during these difficult, challenging times and throughout my life. Eating comfort food, listening to music, dancing, taking long walks, phone calls, FaceTime with friends and family, and the most important one, breathing. And why do I say breath? Because over the last especially the last several months, I keep on noticing all those stressful tensions. And that worrisome, that monkey mind chatter in our heads. And I sat there and it's like, okay, Pauline, get yourself regroup. And the first thing that came to my mind was breathe. Take deep breaths. I keep on noticing, and I kept on observing how much my breathing was shallow. It's like, change it, turn it around, get yourself refocused. And it was just a calming mechanism. It was just a wonderful way to just ease into and be present with yourself. And that's what it just means, just to breathe. Just to breathe, to concentrate solely on the experience of nourishing our bodies with air, and in doing so, fostering a deep sense of eternal safety. Eternal safety. The last couple of months, I've been noticing the tire pressure in my car. The warning light kept on going off, kept on flashing, and I knew it wasn't my imagination. But I learned that the tire pressure dips caused by the change of temperature. So air, it got me thinking about air and breathing and that breath of, taking that breath. And I learned that the car runs best when there is proper pressure in the tires, and breathing, life, living life. So the pressures of work, of home, becomes overwhelming. And that breathing just helps us to keep us on an even keel. The breath of life. Because each time you breathe in, we take in oxygen to our lungs, our bloodstream, our cells. And guess what? We get to change with each breath. So that beautiful metaphor about breathing is life. Because experiences come in and experiences go out. And we are changed. Breath is not good or bad. It is. The same thing with our life. Life is not good or bad. It is. Our experiences with life is not either good or bad. It just is. It's a moment. So how can we make the best of any changes or shifts that have come our way? How can we embrace the current energies of our own life and find a way to feel at peace with them? One of my favorite principles is number 7, that we affirm the moral responsibilities of individuals and that we make our own happiness or unhappiness as we obey or disobey the nature's physical and spiritual laws. The beauty of that is that we have that responsibility for our own happiness. And yes, even though it seems trite when we say that, be happy. I always love that song, Smile and Be Happy. But it tells us that your happiness doesn't make an impact. So it tells us that happiness, it affects everything that we do. Happiness affects and it impacts our workplace, our home. Doesn't it also impact our children and our relationships, any relationship? That our happiness doesn't just make an impact on strangers, but our own health as well. That smile, that happiness of that feeling that eludes us, it affects. It has that ripple, that beautiful ripple effect on all creatures. I read this beautiful, or I saw this beautiful quote by Thich Nhat Hanh. Feelings come and go like clouds in the sky, but conscious breathing is my anchor. And this reminds me, no matter how chaotic things may seem, that we're okay, that we're going to get through this, that we're still here, that we're still strong. And time is going to heal all wounds. Because going back to our breathing techniques, our breathing expressions or exercises are now such an important part of my life. It was just this time, this pandemic time, of reminding me to go within, to go within and to breathe and to feel and not be so much pressurized in what's been being bombarded by us, by the outside world. Breathing has become my biggest tool and my best friend. It has become a foundation for living with conscious presence and awareness. Because every breath is a chance to begin again. The true wonder of beginnings is that they are infinite, that we can begin again whenever we like. And just like as we're moving into the spring season, new beginnings, new ways of doing things, new thoughts, new patterns. So there's no end. There's no end to how many beginnings we can have. And that's the magic of beginning. That's the magic of creating our own happiness. We have so much to learn about new beginnings from nature. The butterfly. The journey from caterpillar to butterfly. It teaches us as we navigate change, transitions, and step into those new beginnings. Have you thought about it? The journey of the butterfly begins with its ending. That we must end, because it is a life lived on those 16 legs, the caterpillar. And then the caterpillar spins itself into a cocoon, so the new beginnings can become possible, moving forward. As the sleeping caterpillar or chrysalis waits, an interesting process starts to happen before the new beginning is realized. It must struggle and push through to the new. And then there's the patience before it can fly. It has to sit there and dry its body from the sun, and then it also has to move and build up that strength, that inner strength within, before it can fly and explore the world. We may be thinking about lots of different several endings that you have had or are having. And some are self-imposed, while others are forced upon us. But regardless of how they come, they are part of life. Beginnings, middles, and ends. And part of the paving, and it's also just part of the paving of what's going to come next. Because each day is a new beginning. It's a new beginning in our search for wonder and goodness. And the only way that we can find that happiness, the way that we can find that extra energy to keep on moving, is that we set the intention to find it. What I love about the start of any day is that each morning, each day is a fresh start, a new beginning, a chance to do things differently. Because every morning when we wake up, we have a new set of choices to make, and everything is up to us. We get to create that. We get to create that happiness. Because when we give our energy and emotions to, it is totally up to us. For me, the beginning symbolizes the possibility of something new, an improvement over what was. It could be a dream or hope of what can be. Because life is the succession of beginnings. Because every day, every hour, every moment of life, every one of us is confronted with new beginnings. And yes, most beginnings appear small and insignificant, but if we think about it, nothing could be further from the truth, because everything that starts with a beginning. I mean, think about nature. The oak tree begins as an acorn. The life-changing invention begins with an idea. The body begins with a cell. The puddle that we see begins with a drop of water. And a book begins with a first sentence. And a new, happier, more fulfilling life begins with an appreciation for the power of new beginnings. So beginnings may appear small and insignificant, but in reality, beginnings are the most significant things in a person's life. To begin something is to cause movement of energy. Because as energy begins to move, our life begins to move. And think about that butterfly, or when it first merges out of the chrysalis. It's in a little bit of a shock. It has to dry, but it has to also move to get that inner strength. And as we approach the season of spring, we're going to be doing a lot of that cleansing, that spring cleaning, that some of us have been feeling antsy about wanting to get out, to move, to go places. With each new beginning, it's always a new opportunity in which we have the opportunity to think newly, to feel newly, to act newly, to speak newly, and to live newly. It's a time of renewal, new beginnings of life and growth, blooming gloriously, and ushering us in a renewed sense of energy. That's what's the beauty about the seasons and the beauty of what's transitioning now for us. Every ending that I've experienced in life was because something new was beginning. If my life had never been full of endings and changes, then everything that I have experienced in my life would never have happened. I am where I am now because in my past has changed. Something in my past has changed. Something ended and allowed me to experience new opportunities and challenges in my life. And all the results, in my opinion, have been positive. Not because it wasn't a difficult time period, but they have always generated a change, an improvement, an opportunity, a potential, something to look forward to. And if we look at our past, everything that has ended has allowed you to be where you are now. When something ends, something new begins. I always think about that when I'm reading in my classroom. When we're reading a storybook in our classroom, the chapter ends and the kids are like, oh, we have to know. I said, it's okay, but tomorrow we get to read the next chapter. One chapter ends and then we get to start a new chapter. When something ends, something always new begins. We are creators of our own reality. We are the creators of our own happiness. An end is always a new beginning. And therefore, we have the opportunity to always start over. Because life changes constantly. And that is what makes this life so wonderful. Because every day is filled with choices. Feelings at peace with change. And with the current state of affairs is not always easy, but an effort taken to bring some type of acceptance within, even if it's small, can make a huge difference to our inner well-being. Just having that breath of just feeling that peace within. Because this always reminds me to keep the faith, to restore our hope, and to know that change in any form can always lead us to places we have never dreamed of or imagining for ourselves. Because life changes constantly. And that is what makes this life so wonderful. Because every day is filled with choices. The breath is our anchor. We use it to connect within, to get to observe within. Because conscious breathing is a life changer, accessible to all of us. And we can begin right now. There's this beautiful quote that I would like to read by Pauline McCarty. One of the best things that we can do in our lives is this: begin again. Begin to see yourself as you were when you were the happiest and strongest you have ever been. Begin to remember what worked for you and try to capture that magic again. Begin to remember how natural it was when you were a child and to live a lifetime each day. Begin to forget the baggage you have carried with you for years. The problems that don't matter anymore, and the tears that cry themselves away, and the worries that are going to wash away on the shore of tomorrow's new beginning. Tomorrow tells us it will be here every new day of our lives. And if we will be wise, we will turn away from the problems of the past and give the future and ourselves a chance to become the best of friends. Sometimes all it takes is a wish in our heart, to let ourselves begin again. And thank you so much for listening.